we're going to get the show on the road. My guest this week is the drummer, Paddy Daddy of the Mahones and DOA. Now, I'm going to be completely honest with you. I actually had to do a little bit of research for this one because I only know DOA by name, and I've honestly never heard of the Mahones, and that's nothing. They're actually a pretty damn big band. That's just because, you know, when you only really dabble in certain areas, sometimes you don't learn about everything or are aware of everything. So this is really interesting. This is why I like having Devin being one of the people that sets things up for me, because honestly, I probably wouldn't have thought of this guest. So I'm really stoked for that. If you're wondering who the hell DOA is, well, they are a Canadian punk rock band that started in about 1977, and they are often referred to as one of the founders of hardcore punk, which is really cool. That's what I know DOA from by name only, because for me, I got into hardcore like the later parts of hardcore and never really went back to past hardcore pre like 1990. That was just for my preference. But I've always known of DOA as being one of the harbingers of the original movement. So that's really cool. Paddy Daddy joined the band on their second reunion in 2014. So I'm going to be very interested talking to him about that. And then I'm not sure when he joined the Mahones, because this band's been around since 1990. They're an Irish punk band. They're based, let me look at, okay, so they've had a lot of things happen. So in 99, their original bassist died. He ate some peanuts. He was allergic. It didn't go well, unfortunately. These are things I found off of Wikipedia. They've had songs in films like Celtic Pride, Dog Park, and The Fighter. They started their own label in 2010. 2014, they were nominated Best Rock Band, Best Punk Band at SiriusXM Indie Awards. And in 2016, Scuffy Wallace, formerly of the Dropkick Murphys, joined this band on bagpipes. So that's really cool. That's a little bit of history I didn't know. I'm very curious when, pardon me here, sorry, I'm pretty chapped. I also got sick over the weekend. That's always fun. But that's really cool too. I'm looking forward to kind of talking to Paddy about his entire journey. I'm curious when he became a part of the Mahones, if he's been a founding member, how long he's been at this. It's going to be an interesting time. How are you doing, Paddy? Thank you for joining us.
Hey, how you doing? You're very welcome. Thanks for having me.
No problem. First off, again, just thank you. It's always a pleasure having new faces on the show for me, people that I maybe don't know personally. So this is always a lot of fun meeting someone new in this environment, and I want to thank you for taking the time to be here. For everyone watching, do you want to briefly just introduce yourself?
Sure. My name's Paddy Daddy. I play in a few bands, drums for a punk rock band that's been around since the 70s called DOA. I occasionally play in an Irish punk band called the Mahones. I also play bass for a band called the Kill Rats, where we dress as rats. And that's another punk rock band. And then I'm also in an Irish traditional project called the Crack Millers.
That's really cool. That's really cool. When Devin set this up and he said that you were in the Mahones and DOA, I had to do a little bit of research first, because DOA I know by name, because whether you've listened to them or not, a lot of people, if you're into heavy music, you know that they're part of that foundation of like hardcore punk back in the early 80s, late 70s, early 80s. But it was cool, like looking to them, then looking into the Mahones and being like, wow, like, I'm not sure how long you've been in the Mahones. I know you joined DOA around 2014 or so, Wikipedia says. But
2013, I believe. I'm coming up on my 10-year anniversary.
Well, happy anniversary in advance.
Thank you.
No problem. No problem. But it was really cool looking at all this stuff that, you know, both projects have done. And now you're saying you have two other ones that you do. You obviously love doing what you do. And before we get into, I guess, like the bands and when you started doing all this, I'm curious, what got you like really into doing what you love doing? Because like you said, it's obvious you love it. If you didn't, you wouldn't be in 4 different projects. So what kind of got you kind of wanting to scratch that itch for the first time?
Well, thanks for the question, Nate. But before I get into it, I'm just really curious, like, what is this show and what do you do? And all, like, I didn't know really anything
Sure.
about Twitch or any of this stuff. So I'm just out of curiosity, what's this all about? Where am I?
We are the Canadian chapter of a show called local band Smokeout. It was originally started as like a song review channel on YouTube by BG. And he runs a show for the American chapter Monday through Friday, brings on guests, promotes bands. And that's usually what we are about, promoting underground bands, as well as interviewing people within the music scene, whether they're just starting out, like have been at it for a while, have promotion experience, maybe do other stuff behind the scenes, digital media promotion, or are more seasoned and have a lot more experience. And we just kind of interview them, trying to like get whatever we can, because I find talking to people, talking to musicians, talking to people that have been within the scene, there's always something beneficial that someone who's currently going at it can take away to do what they want to do, whether that's be a performing musician, be a studio musician, work in the scene, just get out there and be a part of their scene and build the community. And that's really fundamentally what we're about, is helping build the underground community, building the underground bands, helping trying to just lift everyone up in some way, shape, or form.
That's very cool. Do you play yourself in a band or bands?
I do. I'm currently a fill-in drummer for a thrash band in Medicine Hat called Crimson Caliber. I'm the vocalist and songwriter for a melodic metalcore, post-hardcore band called No Hope for the Lost. And I also run a studio that does live sound and recording called Octave Studios.
Wow. Oh, you're a busy guy as well.
Hey, when we love what we do, we find ways to just keep doing it in different avenues.
Yeah, make it happen. Okay, very cool. Well, thanks for that. Back when I was 10 years old, we had moved from Northern Ireland to Canada when I was a little kid. I went, we were visiting another Irish family that had moved over to Canada as well. Actually, they lived in a place called, I'm not going to remember. I was living in Lethbridge, Alberta. They were just outside of Lethbridge, Alberta, so not that far from where you're at now. Anyways, and they had a daughter that I kind of had a crush on, and she was really into punk rock. I was 10, she was 16. Mm-hmm. She was really into punk. She was listening to like the Sex Pistols and Adam and the Ants and all these bands that I didn't know anything about. But because of my fascination with her, I was a complete poser and went out and ordered punk rock records just so when we went to visit her, I could be a cool 10-year-old and pretend I knew what I was talking about. Well, so that's how it started, my love of punk. And then I started, she went away a long time ago, but the love of the music stayed. I became an avid record collector, and I got a drum set when I was in grade 5. My dad bought me a drum set for Christmas. It was a piece of shit. And then that's just been it. I pretty much, I started a band with my brother called The Delinquents when I was in grade 6. And then we became a band called Slobber Problem. Then we became a band called Play Dead. This is a long time ago. This is the 80s, early 80s. And then moved to Vancouver, was in a bunch of punk bands then through Vancouver, toured a lot, ended up meeting Joe, playing shows with DOA. And then 10 years ago, me and Joe were making this deal where I was trading him T-shirts for a guitar, and he happened to mention he might need a drummer. At that time, DOA was supposedly retiring. Mm-hmm. So I thought I was getting on for. I thought we're going to do some shows in the States. We're going to do some shows in China, and we were going to do some shows in Europe. And I thought, that's pretty cool. I'll learn the songs, and because even though it's the farewell tour, I'll get on for the I don't know, maybe I'll get 50 shows out of the deal. It'll be great. But that 50 shows is now turned into maybe, 500 or 600 shows. And 10 years later, we're still playing. I'm very happy. I didn't want the band. So I was pretty happy when Joe, at that point, lost his political bid and decided to take the show back on the road. I've just been in the band ever since.
That's amazing. There's so much there, like almost to unpack. But first off, I got to say, again, I appreciate you being on the show, because a lot of people I've had the pleasure of talking to, they've been at it almost as long as I have. Like they started in the late 2000s, late 2010s, getting into the underground scene and all this. It's really cool having someone like you who has that experience from even before then, because I find when I was coming into the scene, we were hitting a really weird transitionary period because music had just like the entire industry was changing as a whole. Drex, much love. Thank you for rating. What that means is he's ended his stream and he's sent all of his viewers over to our stream. So thank you all for tuning in. We have Paddy Daddy of DOA, the Mahones, and several other bands joining us. So we're going to have a great conversation. Feel free to ask any questions you may have if there's anything you hear that you kind of are interested in and want to know more about. But I'm very curious for you. Being a part of the music scenes from the 80s to the 90s into the 2000s, have you always kind of seen it as a fluctuation in how things, I guess, happen in the music scenes, or has it, was there like a consistency for a while and then an abrupt shift, or like, what was that like? Because it's one thing to kind of hear about it through like documentaries and all of that, but I'm really curious what it was like for you as someone who is actually within the scene, what going through all those decades has been like, just watching them transform.
Yeah. Okay. Got it. It's honestly, for me, it hasn't really changed much. The very first show I played was an all ages show in 1986, I believe it was, in Calgary, Alberta. And it was a punk rock show. I was 15 years old. And it honestly, even how much people pay at the door hasn't changed much since 1986. I think it was a $10 show back then.
Really?
Yeah, I don't think that's changed much. Anyways, so it would. I found punk rock and it has ebb and flowed in as much as it kind of becomes more popular. You know, it kind of gets hip with the kids for a bit, and the shows start to fill out a little bit. You see big swells in the 90s. So that does change. Sometimes you're kind of really riding a wave, and your tours are selling out, and then other times not so much. But as far as the core group of people that are involved, and I literally know people that have been going to shows for more than 30 years that still go to shows. We're talking guys that probably look like your grandfather, but these guys are punks, and they still go to shows. So for the most part, the core for me has remained the same and remained solid, and it has always been such a welcoming, awesome community, no matter where you play. Like I was saying, we played shows in China, like deep in China, like even Wuhan, and there's not a lot of people speaking English there. Big packed out shows, but the kids come and they sing along and they're into it. And we can't even understand each other off stage, but when we're on stage, it's just the same kind of core, group of people and feeling.
That's really cool. And I think the attitude, and like you said, the welcoming nature, because even when I was getting into like the different scenes, the punk scene, in my opinion, was always the most welcoming in regards to like all the different alternative scenes. I find it's getting better across the board now, but I remember coming in, the punk scene seemed the most, come enjoy yourself, come have a good time. And I think that really speaks to the longevity of not just the genre, but the community, as you said, people being involved for decades if they get involved and wanting to be a part of that and growing it. And I think that's the thing I personally love about the punk rock attitude amongst everything. Like, regardless of like music or anything like that, I think it's the attitude and the community that I love the most about the punk rock scene, and having you basically just confirm that, especially going outside of just like local scenes, but being able to go somewhere where there's a language barrier and still being able to have that sense. That's really cool. And I think that's something a lot of people should definitely take to heart, in my opinion, because I think that's where the actual growth of things go, whether things ebb or flow. The more people that feel that sense of community, the more people are going to be there, whether it's at the top of popularity or more obscure and niche for a time period.
Yeah, totally. But the core has always remained the same. And I think definitely my experience was always very welcoming. Since I was very young when I first started going to shows. Like I said, I was very interested at a very young age, and I fucking hated school. I was terrible. I got kicked out of high school. Like I was just terrible at that stuff. But I had a really strong community within the scene when I was, growing up, and like, so maybe you weren't so cool at school, maybe you were, like, you were fitting in so much that way, but man, you go to a show on the weekend and fly off stage, and you were just like, you didn't give a shit about anything else. It was just awesome. And I hope it's still that way for when young kids go to shows and stuff today. I don't really know. I'm speaking from, like, we're like as seasoned as punk rock bands get, as far as DOA goes. Like, I'm curious to the experience of, say, a 16-year-old, a bunch of 16-year-olds starting a punk band, and what the scene's like for them. Hopefully their experience is similar to what I experienced back in my day.
There's a punk band from Medicine Hat that hits that age frame, actually. I worked sound for them at a festival, Alternative Waves, and I had the pleasure of recording them as well. And then I worked sound for them at another festival, and I love it. Their energy is top notch. I love that we were able to give them that platform and that stage to play at both times. Awesome. The second one was an outdoor show, and if the first show was uncontrolled chaos, like things just happening, like the drummer broke the beater skin of his drum kit midway through the set, and just small things that could go wrong went wrong, but they handled themselves. We go to Moments Fest, they took all that experience, all of that, like, all that fun and all the, like, drawbacks, and controlled chaos, except manifested and amplified, is the best way I can describe them. And I'm really glad that we're seeing platforms like for those younger bands again, because for a time there was a difficulty with getting all ages shows or getting younger bands into venues, just because a lot of venue owners didn't want to deal with some kid getting hurt in a mosh pit and them having to deal with whatever comes with that. And I like that we're getting back to that, because there was definitely a period, I know, within our scene where it was difficult to not necessarily get in, like, as an 18-year-old, but if you were younger than the legal age within the province, it was really hard to branch outside into actual shows. So I like that that's starting to change again for the better.
Wait, so what's the name of that band? That young band?
Silly Bike.
Silly Bike. Okay, I'll check them out.
You definitely should.
That sounds cool.
There's a live compilation of from the festival I put together, 14 bands, 2 songs, everything from, like, rap to thrash metal. So you'll find Silly Bike in there. Go check them out. Maybe check out a few other bands, because I love the fact that that's happening, that we can have multi-genre events of underground music and have a punk band play with some rappers and some heavy metal guys, and just being like, no, everyone's into everything. Sweet.
So what's the scene like there in Medicine Hat these days? Is it strong?
It's building. I love it. Like I said, Alternative Waves, it's a festival that I helped found, and now I just kind of I separated from and now help as a tech and just using my strengths. I found being a promoter and organizing all of that was way too much for me mentally on top of everything else. So there were people there that were far more capable than me. I went, you guys do it. If you need my help, reach out, and I'm still their sound tech. But it's really vibrant. We have wicked punk bands like Western Death, Silly Bike, Total Wolf is another really good one. We have Crimson Caliber when it comes to, like, thrash metal stuff. Raising the Ruins for, like, a more modern, like, metal type of band. And a bunch of rap artists too. And we're seeing shows maintain and grow. We're seeing that diverse bills are working, where we can put a few different types of bands together and everyone's chilling. And that's what I love. Oh, that's my cat I hear in the background. Has it, for you, like, were the scenes always kind of, like, diverse? Or, again, was there more of an ebb and flow where for a while there'd be a bit more collaboration, and then for a while a bit more like, nah, strictly these bands together for X amount of time or whatever, and then back to more collaboration? Or was there always kind of just do what works?
I always thought it was a little bit more do what works, and I found like in the 90s in Vancouver, like, there was definitely all the bands kind of playing together, all the punk bands. It was the same bands every weekend or whatever. So I think maybe if you were, like, on the outside looking in, you'd think these guys were all, a certain clique or something like that. But definitely, it was more like we were the only punk bands. It was just like there wasn't that many, so we have to just create it and make it all happen ourselves. There were such great people back in those days in the scene that were organizing shows and putting stuff together and that kind of stuff. So it was like, at least for me, because I guess I was in it, it didn't feel like it was divided. It felt very strong, and then that anybody could show up, and anybody could. And the shows were diverse in definitely, like we were playing with metal bands, and you see, even at the last Kill Rats, which is the other band I'm in, show we played here in Nelson, BC. Like the guy who opened up was an acoustic kind of folk singer at a punk show, and it was he's a perfect fit. And I recommend all of your listeners or watchers or whatever to check out Mr. Awesome from, I don't know if you've heard of him, but
I have not.
Anyway. Okay, check out Mr. Awesome. He's a blast.
Mr. Awesome?
Mr. Awesome, yeah.
All right, I'm writing that one down to check out. If one of my mods ends up finding them, they'll put a link in the chat. But that's awesome. And I love, again, like the diversity, because we actually have someone in our chat, Paul, who just this past weekend played the Trash Talk Showcase, which Trash Talk is very similar to local band Smokeout Canada. Nate Trash of a grindcore band Horrify in Calgary, again, was inspired by what BG was doing and kind of decided to put his own spin on it. And I kind of helped him get his things going. And 2 years later, he's still going hard. He's bringing on bands to interview. He just put a showcase together at Vern's with, I think, 5 or 6 bands. My buddy Paul started it out, and he, I don't know if it was an acoustic set or if he played to backing tracks, but he opened the night up, and then we went to like some punk, some metal, like from what
Very cool.
Yeah. And talking to everyone sounds like it was a blast. And I love that that's a thing. And I get what you mean. When you're in it, we see how more collaborative everything is versus if you're not like on the, and I hate saying that there's an inside, but there is in regards to like people working on shows. It's not a like behind the curtain thing. Like, who it is and you can probably reach out and easily become a part of the process. But like within that network, there's a lot more collaboration versus if you're outside and not noticing it, you might see different things than what is actually happening. And I think that just comes down to confirmation bias. Maybe people that are like, I only want to go to see these bands or go to these shows at these venues, et cetera, et cetera. But I love that overall throughout the years, it's always kind of been what works. The people that want to help come in, help everyone plays together, that works together, build the scene up. Because I think, again, that's why we see like the punk scene especially is always, in my opinion, the strongest out of all of them. When did you join the Mahone? Sorry.
No, sorry, really quickly, just when you mentioned your mate from Calgary and kind of being in a metal scene in Calgary, this shirt that I'm wearing Possession, which was from Calgary in the 80s, and I highly recommend your mate if he hasn't. He probably knows them already, but this is the greatest band to ever walk the face of the earth in kind of the crossover punk metal.
Beyond Possession, I will make a note and I will send it to my buddy Nate. It's amazing how many Nates are out there now. Just
if you're this was kind of a little bit of my gateway drug to heavier punk rock. These guys, I was really into punk rock at the time, but these guys definitely were they could called crossover at the time, kind of like early Corrosion of Conformity, that kind of era. But they were, and I was a massive fan. It was like Religion and Beyond Possession. So if anybody's like, and the album is Beyond Possession, is my top, 5 favorite albums of all time. So anyways, for your mate who's into metal and into Calgary, this is like good history.
Hell yeah. No, I appreciate that. I really do. It's small little things like that I love doing this, why I love doing the show, because we can get analytical and technical, but it's always those little nuggets right there that I really appreciate. When did you join the Mahones? Have you been with them since they started, or did you join them later on, similar to how you joined DOA?
No, I just very, very recently joined them, and I'm kind of more of a fill-in for those guys. So I've actually only played, I think, just a cross-Canada tour. So I've only played about 25 shows with them total. They put out thing on Facebook saying they needed a drummer, and because I play lots. They're an Irish punk band. Finney, he's known Joe Shithead from DOA for years, so there was that connection there. But mostly because I sent him a video of me playing the accordion. They didn't even hear me play drums. They sent him a video of me playing a Pogue song on the accordion. Finney just told me I was hired. And then I literally, like, these guys, they're amazing cats. They literally, I actually met them about 2 hours before our first show in Edmonton, actually, on that tour. So there was no rehearsals, nothing. They just, I met the lads, said, okay, hey guys, and we went on stage, and then we went and played 25 shows.
That's amazing. That is awesome.
Yeah, it's crazy.
What did you do for prep then? If you didn't have a practice with them, did you just go throughout the songs that you had to learn and went, all right, we're good to go?
Yeah, kind of. So yeah, I asked Finney to send me a set list, and he sent me 2.5 hours worth of music, and I was just like, it seemed like a lot. So I listened to it constantly, and I played along. But one of the and something else I wasn't used to. I actually learned a lot from my time in the Mahones, because DOA, it's like when we play, the set is the same every night. Cutie. I also have a black cat who looks very similar. We just play everything the same, and it's razor sharp, and we take no breaks in songs, and we like to just kick it out as fast as possible. The Mahones play a different set every night. They don't use set lists. They actually can change the arrangements of songs on the fly. You have to watch for signals, stuff like this, which I wasn't used to at all. But I had to. They kind of call it like stick on the ice kind of hockey.
Yeah,
I had to keep my stick. I had to keep my stick on the ice and play. And I learned a lot with those guys. I learned a lot because what I'm saying is all the learning, all the practicing I did. Songs, all the rehearsing didn't actually matter, because we didn't even play them that way live. We played them how Finney was kind of feeling at the time. If he was thinking this was feeling good, it was going to. If he's going to, let's go on to something else. We'll go on to something else. Yeah,
that's cool. Paul actually asks a really good question. Then to build off that, how do you practice adaptive flexibility then as a drummer, or even as a musician in general? Because you're a multi-fluent musician. Like you said, you play bass as well. How do you go about just building that, I guess, mindset to be flexible and adaptive on the fly?
Well, that is a really good question. I was asking myself that question day 2 into the Mahones tour, when they turned around to me and said, "You're playing way too loud and too," because I'm so used to that, right? And I'm like, you guys, like, I was in DOA, right? Like, you guys knew what you were getting. Like, I don't know if I can. This is like how I always play. I don't know. But I learned a lot about myself very quickly on the fly, because I want to enhance the experience, the music. I don't want to be just that fucking guy that just rolls, blasts through stuff. So I had to, like, I remember I called my wife, and I'm like, babe, I don't know, man. Like, I'm just like pounding this shit out. These guys have got like an acoustic accordion playing. It's being mic'd, but I'm loud, and I push the beat a lot, So they're just like, calm down. And so I phoned my wife, and I'm like, I don't know, this might be the gig for me. And she's saying, she's awesome. She's just like, yeah. So also the guys were really cool about it. They were just, you do you or whatever. But I took it to her, and on the fly I decided, okay, I've never really been much of a subtle drummer. I've never really been much of it. I didn't use dynamics much ever before. I've always played in punk rock bands. That's all I've ever done on drums. Other than I did an AC/DC tribute band called BCDC for 12 years, but we played like always just, so I just thought, okay, I'm going to do my best to adapt on the fly. And I'm going to say by the fourth show, I started to be half decent, and then I started to really get the feel of it, and then I started to swing more. I needed to swing. Like I say, like punk rockers, they swing, but not. I don't generally. So things like that, I have to learn, and just lucky the lads were, they like that. They like chaos. They like things to be different. Like they're the only band in the world that tries to feed you whiskey shots before you go on stage.
Oh,
just
damn.
like, come on. Yeah, like they're legit, man. They're legit. So anyways, it was for me, I am, like you say, I'm a multi-instrumentalist, but I'm one of those guys that never got really that, spread myself so thin that I kind of play everything half-assed. So I walk into these situations and I just gotta get my shit together fast and try to do my best, And that's kind of how that panned out. And, hopefully down the road, I'll do more shows with them. I was supposed to leave in a few weeks to go and do 7 weeks with Europe with them, but it's crossing over too much with my DOA schedule. So I'm not going to be able to go to Europe. If something opens up and there's timing and things like that, I'll hopefully pop back on and do more shows and that kind of stuff. So.
Awesome. That's really cool, though, that gig kind of forced you to shift your perspective as a musician and as a drummer and lean into aspects of the instrument that you hadn't really put a lot of focus in compared to other aspects that you had put a lot
100%.
of time. And I think, would you say, you kind of already answered it, but I guess clarification, because Paul's asking, what would your tip to someone who's learning about dynamics and expressions be for the first time? Because I imagine for you, it was like you just had to get over certain mindsets and learn to be more flexible with yourself. But if you're talking to, say, a drummer who's really only maybe got a year of experience and they want to get used to more so just using their skill set that they have, but be more expressional with it, what would your first word of advice be to them?
Well, see, I am 51 years old and I learned this skill at 51 years old. So I am maybe not the best person to ask this question. But what I did, and this is going to sound hilarious, but what I literally did was whenever I play with DOA, I hammer it down. I have my hair flies all over the place. I try my best to be just really, I actually went, okay, I put my hair, I did take my glasses off. Half of the Mahone shows, I put my hair in a ponytail. I kept my glasses on. I started to encompass this different. I've always been this Paddy Duddy kind of I've like Animal on the Muppets, kind of like the big dumb drummer. So I had to just go, okay, that's not. That's not needed here. You gotta try something else on. So I've changed how my appearance in some ways, just to try to get into this mind, just sort of so I don't fall into old patterns of rocking so hard or hitting so hard, coming off my speed or things like that I'm so used to, right? So I kind of just physically started to internalize this kind of this new drummer. I don't need to do all this stuff. It was weird, half of sweating because. Where normally I'd be just annihilated, soaked in water, like someone threw buckets on me, right? I just started just to be this other person, and also, and this is important, and this is something that I've had for a long time that I think I'm really good at. The one thing I'm really good at is I really listen to the band. I never just play and worry about what I'm doing. That's always kind of secondary. I never think about what's coming next and never really focus on a fail or anything like that. But I always switch my focus. If I do focus on me, I start to fuck up. That's another thing. But if I focus on listening to what the other players are playing and get into their little head about what's happening out there, then that really helps set the tone of how you drum. So I was the only guy in the room partying back there, bashing it out. So when I started listening to what everyone else was doing and paying attention, I realized, oh man, these guys are doing something else, and I gotta join that party, and pay really close attention. So I would just listen to the other players and the melody and play. My drumming kind of started to morph, hopefully, towards that a little closer.
That's really cool. It sounds like you almost as the process went on, created a separate stage persona that better fit the situation, and you utilized your music listening skills, and by that I mean your ability to take in what everyone else was doing and not solely focus on what you were doing, to help you better shape that, which I think is a very key thing for any musician, whether you're a vocalist, a guitarist, a bassist, a drummer, play the didgeridoo. Like, knowing what you do is really good, but being able to listen to what everyone else is doing, vibe off it, kind of feel where they're all going, that's where the creativity and, more importantly, the chemistry I find comes from within projects, because then you're ebbing and flowing off each other.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, totally. That's, if I was to talk to any young drummers, only listen to your bandmates closely, and and try to become kind of a unit with them, as to wishing they would join you in action.
That's really solid advice. I think that answers one of the questions that I was going to ask, but I can ask it again later for DOA later on, because I was going to ask what was the main thing you took away from it. But I feel this entire past 10-minute conversation seems to be like a huge part of what you as a drummer took away from that, especially with your experience and having to adapt and do all these things differently. When it came to DOA, because like you said, you thought it was just a filling gig originally. You'd play a handful of gigs, and now here you are coming up on your 10-year anniversary. What was it like for you when you got to the end of that original, agreed upon date, and then you were brought on to do more?
Well, there was never a super clear communication with Joe about how many more we were going to do. So it was always like I remember we had done some American shows. We had done an Australian tour. We'd done a China tour. And we were back doing the States, and I thought it was a tour of Florida, and I thought that was going to be the last. I kind of was wondering, was this going to be the last show? And then Joe just approached me and said, "Oh, we're going to we got Europe or something else. Come on." I'm like, "Okay, that sounds cool." So I thought, and then we used to joke. I'm like, "Geez, this is the longest farewell tour ever." And Joe would always say, the Ramones. They took 4 years, a 4-year farewell tour or something. So I just thought, he's just kind of getting his, we're just going to go until he gets tired of it or something. And then he decided one day that, like I say, it had lots to do with, he was running at the time for politics in Vancouver, which he has now won, and he's a city councilor, and he's doing great. But at the time, I think he thought he had to do one or the other. So when he'd lost his bid back then he just kind of said, I don't think this is a retirement tour. So he put out this message, we're not going anywhere. And then we just kept touring, and we toured lots. I think that band's taken me to 35 or 40 countries. They just see this, and Joe he's the guy's a machine. He's been playing in DOA for 42 years and has played. Last time we added it up, it was over 4,000 shows. Yeah, with DOA. Last time we added it up. So it's probably 4,600 shows or something now. Yeah, it's crazy. It's like if you wanted to do it right now, if you wanted to say, I'm going to play as many shows as DOA, you'd have to start today and play a show every single day for 13 or 14 years or something like that.
That's crazy. That's absolutely crazy. Yeah. The longevity of that punk rock spirit again, totally. Keeping at it. You said you've played multiple countries too. I'm guessing there's multiple things, but what are some of your takeaways from that experience? Because I can imagine that was very different in comparison to other projects, especially as things started to progress and go further and further and further.
Mm-hmm. Would you be touring different countries?
Whether it's touring other countries, seeing how he runs a project that's been around that long, playing as many shows as frequently, and kind of now yourself shifting into someone who can not just do that for one project, but for whatever projects you can fit into your schedule. Because I imagine DOA has a lot to do with where you're at now? Not so much like professionally, but like a lot of your mentalities and things you've picked up throughout that time. Because throughout a decade, a lot can happen, right?
100%. And I've learned a ton from you're right. I was in touring bands up until I joined DOA, but only through the States and through Canada. I never toured internationally until I got into DOA. But I, like, there's some parts of DOA that are really funny. Like some things that are old school, like really old school. Like you'd be surprised. Like Joe likes paper maps. He doesn't like to use Google Earth or Google Maps and stuff like that. So we got paper maps and in the van, and there's parts of the tour that I sometimes feel like still touring in the 70s. And lots of stuff's done like Joe's really good about we'll play in front of 10,000 people in Poland one day, in front of 30 people the next day in the Netherlands. But Joe's never he never gets to a point where he's like, we only want to play the big shows, or we only want to, he goes and he'll play and he plays everywhere. It's like, and there's fans everywhere, and it just blows my mind. And it's been this guy who's had, so much longevity and has, he's a decent dude and he's good to people. And I know people just like him, he's like, it doesn't matter where we go. It doesn't matter. You go anywhere in the world, somebody's going to go, holy shit, that's Joe Shithead. Fucking hell. That's Joe, right? I mean, people come up to him and he's always really nice. And I don't know, he's just been out for. So I don't know. Like, I guess I just respect the process a lot more, what it takes. And, I love what it's given me, because I've been in other bands that I've actually taken overseas, or I've taken another band I was into China because of the connections. Joe, the band I'm in now, the Kill Rats, we're doing just a little tour out west, and we're gonna go do West Coast United States tour. But all those connections is stuff that I kind of got through Joe, and seeing how he does it and how he treats promoters. Like, he walks into a club, Joe always remembers sound, always remembers something. He just knows how to treat everybody. And they want DOA to come back. We try to put on a good show. Try to keep the kids stoked. So I don't know. I've learned it.
I love that. Like, hearing that someone who has that level of prestige, I guess, if we want to find a word for it, within the scene, is also that humble about what they do and still does just what should be expected of everyone. Because every band, in my opinion, should be going and thanking their promoter, their sound tech, their waitresses, their bar manager, whoever is working that night deserves at least some kind of thanks, even in passing, because they're all there so that you can do your thing and entertain people. Everyone's a part of the process, and the people that take the time to go out and help, either help or at least say thank you, they're the ones that leave an impression on everyone, make them feel like they not only like what they're doing, but they want to bring that person back. Be like, no, that guy's good shit. I think we got to book him again. I think he's good energy.
Totally, and I think really the reason that DOA has been able to tour for 40 years is that, because the DOA's toured through the lean fat. We still get invited back, and I think it has a lot to do with just, we come in very respectfully. We treat everybody really well, and genuinely appreciate the efforts that people are making around us to make the show happen. It's not like we got to schmooze people. It's like, no, it's like we are very grateful to be touring and playing in these great places, and people risk a lot to bring us to certain places too, right? People will, they paid us for a lot of money for us to come fly down to this place and play these shows that they're promoting, right? So that's sticking their necks out for us. So we want to make sure that they make, so we're ambassadors of punk rock, man. People show these guys are assholes, there's so many bands that have got tour, nothing to do with me, but because of Joe breaking ground and getting into those places and setting up channels, and then gracefully handing over those connections to the next band so they can phone. This is back when we were booking things on the telephone, but like booking shows, and handing that information, and to send them off. Joe was really great to me when I was in a young band. Joe, we got to do shows with him, and he later on toured with him. He just treated us good. So it was once he was looking for a drummer. I thought, this guy'd be a band, because he's treated me good. He was awesome, So yeah, Joe's like he's the godfather. He's spreads the good word.
And not only
the drums.
I find not only does he do that, but I can tell just by the way you talk about him and the way we've talked, it's infectious. It spreads. He leads by example, and those that are around him take that to heart, and then not only reciprocate it, but replicate it, bring it into their own.
I think so.
Being.
Yeah. That's very cool. Yeah.
That's really, really awesome. I'm trying to think of one or two more things because I know it is. Well, I guess are you on the West Coast, right?
Yeah, it's 8:12.
Okay. Well, I don't want to take up too much more of your time because you've already given us a solid hour of your time, and I'm sure you have other things that you want to be doing. But first off, I want to say I very much appreciate our conversation just based off what we've talked about so far, because I feel, again, like I said at the start, the idea of the show is to be able to just talk about like individual histories, experiences, and be able to take things away from that so that we as active members in our music community, not just our music communities, actually, our communities in general, because I feel a lot of the things that we do within our scenes are things that we can do outside of our scenes as well. They're like very humanistic, like just things that we can do in public that make us overall better people, for lack of a better term. But I appreciate hearing about like Joe's influence and how someone who's been at it for this long not only leads by example, but the people that come into the project, whether performing with him in the band or performing with him in another band or putting on the shows, that they not only recognize it, but he has the genuine nature to, again, have that come into other people genuinely as well. And you definitely personify that too with just the things that you've personally talked about from scenes and your overall experience. What would you say is the most important thing that you've taken away from your entire experience as a musician? Like, I know it's a really kind of hard thing to categorize, but if there was only one thing that you could kind of say about your experience in regards to the most important thing you've taken away, or it could even just be your most important experience as a musician, what is your biggest takeaway from this journey you've been on?
Okay, so all of the really, really great and amazing things that have ever happened to me in life has been because of playing music and punk rock. It's like, if anybody is like I was really lucky. My dear mother, when I was, she was always like, can I, music, writing, these things matter. Don't worry about money too much, or don't worry about this stuff. Those things kind of matter. And I kind of even really didn't take it to heart as a kid. I was like, get rich or some shit, So everything that I have, everything that's come out of my life, just awesome. Like, awesome has been through some way, shape, or form through my band life. Like everything good. So it's like has been the most important thing that has, like, it's a big, has been the core, and that everything is kind of like whipping around like this, but it's like without that, very, very different. And way less cool, like way less fun. So like, it's, I never much about like a career, get my shit together. Like I got screen print. I started the business so I could make for a bit from the music. That's this company, but it literally started because of the band. Through the band, and best friends. I've had all my great experiences. I've been able to travel the world and make friends in so many countries, all through being a shitty drummer. So it's like, imagine if you're a good drummer, what you're saying. Like if anybody's in that situation, the hobby, it's like, no, work that shit. Like everyone's got to pay the bills. Like, I dig it, myself included. But that's the focus, that's the focus. And like what you're doing, it's like you're also part of this, not just with the bands you're playing, just you're doing right here and right now. Like this is the scene where we're soaking. This is it. This is what we do. Is like, to be perfectly honest with you, I hate interviews. I never do interviews. I hate them because there's someone else to, if it's like if you don't want to talk to someone else in the band, to those guys.
Yeah.
So appreciate that people want to, it's like if you would talk to me about this, so you wanted to talk to me about some product, I just no fucking way. But yeah, music, okay, I'm in, you know what I mean? Because this is what we do.
It's our language. It's our communal language.
Yeah, there's cats like you and me, and like everywhere, all over the world. Everywhere there's cats that just they just fucking, they're super into music and super into punk rock or super into the drums or, and they just, and as soon as you see these guys and they come up, talk to you, like fellow drummers come up to me every show, I'll talk to and we're almost, I already know you, man. I've already met you in every single country of this tour, man. You're like just this random dude who loves drums. I love you too, man. Shit. Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
I love it. I absolutely love it. Almost brought a tear to my eye with the whole encompassing everything that myself and everyone who's a part of the community is about. Again, thank you for your time and for such the kind of words in regards to interviews, because I'm the same way in regards to if you want to talk music, whether it's experience or theory or fun, history of bands, whatever, I'm down. Other stuff, trying to shill a product of some kind, God, I feel dirty. I really don't want to do that.
It's not important. I want to talk about what cool bands are in your town, that kind of shit.
100.
That's awesome. Anyways, thanks for inviting. Make sure your mate checks out Beyond Possession. I think it's going to be his new favorite band.
We will definitely check him out. Is there anything that you are on that you would like us to check out after we end the call?
100%. I want you to check out the Kill Rats.
The Kill Rats, we will do that. I'll load them up.
We have a LP that's for sale right now, a brand new LP, and going on tour in May. We dress like rats on stage, and it's super fun. We have a pretty fun little thing going.
Is it the S-T EP? Is it
which?
The S-T? It's got a comic book almost looking artwork?
Yeah. I've never heard it be called that before, but it's kind of a ripoff of Kiss's Unmasked album cover, done by Tom Bagley of Forbidden Dimension. He's the artist, Calgary. Very well-known Calgary artist we're big fans of. So yeah, check out that record. It's all the download things, and it's also just another project that's one of lesser-known projects, but something I'm super stoked on.
Hell yeah, we'll be sure to check that out. I'll also send you that compilation in our chat later so that you can go check out Silly Bike. I'll see if maybe I can find the YouTube video that we have of them. We have one of two videos up for them right now, so I'll see if I can send that for you too. It's not the best quality, but I tried to at least get some footage for the bands in some way. Everyone, once again,
maybe next time. Oh, sorry, I had to say maybe next time when we can get them to play a show with us or something like that. That'd be cool.
I would definitely advise them. Any punk band that comes through, I definitely they're the local where I'm this is the young blood that needs the show, needs the experience. So if you ever end up in our neck of the woods, Calgary, Medicine Hat, myself or my buddy Keith Acoin, he's actually the main organizer for Alternative Waves Festival, and he organizes a lot of fundraiser shows. We'll definitely get you guys kind of in touch and get a show with you guys. I think that'd be really cool.
Sounds right. Sounds awesome, man.
Awesome. Well, thank you again, Paddy, for being a part of the show today. You have yourself a fantastic rest of the night. Enjoy your 2023. And I look forward to maybe having you on the show again sometime in the future.
I'd love to, man. Thanks for the invite, Nate. Yeah.
Cheers.
Awesome.
That is Paddy. I am stoked that we had him on the show. He seems like a fucking solid dude. A really fucking solid dude.